I'm willing to bet that with every organization out there, there's at the very least one shadow organization to match it. And with the world of Unordinary, we have Ember, a shadow organization with very devious motives. We've seen very early on what Ember is capable of doing. On the news channel, we hear some disturbing things. Ember has been leaving a trail of bodies. The most recent one being in Louvain, in an alley near intersection of Rocal and Acre Street. Investigators have identified the body as well-known vigilante Ecstatic. No further personal information was given. The victim's body was covered in second-degree burns and multiple stab wounds. And, like all other Ember victims, a very prominent brand of its logo marked on the corpse. We learned two things during this event. The first is that Ember isn't really a shadow organization. A shadow organization, by name, is a shadow, a secret, hidden in the shadows, unknown to the public or anyone. Does that sound like Ember? Ember has made the news multiple times. High school students know about them. Everyone knows about Ember. When's the last time you've talked about a shadow organization? When's the last time you saw news cover a shadow organization? You don't. Which might be the problem, right? The shadow organization is very sloppy, leaving a trail of bodies out there in daylight. Having the news know that they exist. Having the news even know the name of your very secret shadow organization. It all seems strange. It's like they're trying to send a message. Well, we'll get back to that. The second thing we've learned from this scene is that people are rather, let's say, disrespectful. You would expect that the people who would see this news, the audience would be upset, or would be gracious or respectful towards these kids that have literally died. These kids that have been violently and viciously murdered. But that's not the reaction of these fellow cafe goers. The first person reacts with, ecstatic, how useless. But we get more from our good friend Serafina. And yet another self-proclaimed superhero falls victim to the consequences of everyday society. People need to learn to mind their own business, especially if they don't have the strength to back it up. Do you feel safer now that he's dead? We see a reoccurring thought pattern, I guess. In Wellston, we see that these students, the ones who got into such a prestigious school with a great reputation that follows these students anywhere they go, have death pools, placing bets on which superhero will die next. That seems cruel. Granted, I wouldn't call these students the most ethically adept people, but still, a death pool for people who are risking their lives to help others, to help protect people, is awful, to say the least. Alright, and that's just the first interaction we get with Ember. So what is their mission? Why do they do what they do? Well, to see what they want to accomplish, we need to take a look at the past to see why Ember is doing what Ember is doing. Granted, we don't have a ton of information on Ember, so getting information on its past is practically impossible. But by taking a look at the flashback moments, we don't see any mention of Ember. Looking at John's flashbacks, looking at Serafina's flashbacks, or looking at the two-part flashback episode with Ray, we don't see anything about Ember. So what can we learn from that? Ember is a kind of recent thing. We actually know how long ago they started. We hear from Eisen that Ember's been around for over half a year now. So, obviously, that means nothing. Okay, it's very possible that Ember has strong ties to the book Unordinary. And it makes sense. We see that Unordinary has direct ties to kids becoming superheroes. And we know that superheroes have a direct tie to, getting killed by a dangerous shadow organization. We see people have an attitude shift to the thought of superheroes. I'm not going to read all these articles, so I'll just read the title of them because I'm too lazy to read all of them fast enough. We get such titles such as Mystery Man Saves the Day, Make Way for a New Type of Citizen, Hero, Thoughts from Phoenix, Unordinary Book Bans, What's Your Favorite Superhero, Unfortunate Accidents, Another One Bites the Dust, Strange Markings Found on Another Hero, Maybe It's Dangerous to Be a Hero, Heroes Haven't Done Anything Useful, This Immature Behavior Needs to Stop, finally ending with Who is Ember? If I could steal a quote from Blake. So, superheroes didn't always have a bad rap. People actually thought they were kind of cool. First of all, Another One Bites the Dust? Really? Young people are dying and you name that your article? Alright, but whatever. The main point is the shift. We see people perceive heroes differently. The first handful are pretty optimistic. Then we see the two that seem a bit sad, like they're actually mourning the loss of these superheroes. Then it gets into a pattern where they drop the love that they were showering on these heroes. Why does that matter? Remember near the beginning, I stated that this shadow organization doesn't seem so secretive? That having a news channel even know that you exist doesn't seem like a good shadow organization? Unless, like I mentioned, you're trying to send a message, which is exactly what they want to do. They want to turn the public's opinions on superheroes sour. But that brings up the big question. What's their motivation? Why do they want to make superheroes look bad? There are a few theories I have in mind, two of which sound like conspiracy theories, but keep an open mind to all of them. I realize that this isn't my normal character chart series, but it's fun to do this anyways. The first theory is obvious. As a crime syndicate, you'd want the least resistance against your criminal actions. You already have a society and authorities to deal with, so adding superheroes into the mix is just too much to handle. Remember, the main difference between superheroes and the authorities is in the name, or more accurately, the name Vigilante. As Google defines it, a member of a self-appointed group of citizens who undertake law enforcement in their community without legal enforcement, typically because the legal agencies are thought to be inadequate. The main thing is without legal authority. They don't have to answer to anyone. Therefore, they have no rules to follow. They can stick their neck wherever they need, wherever they want to. Places like Brannish, a place with no authority, a place where the only thing that matters is strength. Ember is formed in retaliation of superheroes. Remember, superheroes were there before Ember. They formed to stop these superheroes. That way, people will be discouraged to becoming a superhero. A criminal syndicate would have no real resistance. The next two are a little more conspiracy theory-ish. The first one has to do with Lila. For those of you who are unaware, or just forgot, Lila is Seraphina's sister. However, more importantly, she's a higher-up at Zeta Science, a company that focuses on ability research. I briefly discussed this in my Q&A video, when someone brought up Seraphina's sister, but think of it like this. Zeta Psi has to go up with NextGen, a much bigger company that focuses on ability research and is backed by the authorities. So it could be difficult to do this when NextGen has everything and they want to develop something for abilities. They're going to need human trials, which is difficult compared to NextGen, unless they cut some corners. I'm not saying that Zeta Science is Ember, more like partners. Zeta Science needs someone to test their product, a drug that can boost your base ability. Remember, in the world of Unordinary, your power level is based on two things: potential and mastery. Mastery you can raise, but I'm sure there are people who are out there who are upset that they train and train and train all day, and simply because they weren't born into that power, they're not as strong. They might want that power, no matter what. Granted, that theory doesn't really matter in this context, because why would sending the message of "don't be a superhero" matter here? But the last conspiracy theory does have some weight to it. There's a weird moment with Remy, Blake, and Eisen, but don't you find it a bit strange? Well, high and elite tiers are very well respected in society. With all the positive reviews superheroes were receiving in the beginning, you'd think the authorities would have backed them up, or at least tried a bit harder to solve the murders. But none of the cases I've collected have ever been resolved. We can't jump to conclusions yet, but I think it's safe to assume that the authorities have no intention of going after Ember. Weeks have passed. The authorities never got back to me. I tried calling them for an update, and when I did, they just hang up on me. I even visited them at the station. The people there told me I was a nuisance, and kicked me out. After that long quote, that doesn't have a ton to do with Ember, right? Well, here's what I think. Humor me for a little. What if Ember was the authorities? Or at least a section of the authorities. An extremely secretive section of the authorities. The government, whatever you want the higher-ups to be, it is created as a special criminal syndicate to kill superheroes and discourage high tiers from becoming superheroes. But that's absurd, right? Well, there's a moment where the Queen Squad, which includes Remy, Blake, and Eisen, are caught by mall security, where Remy says, "Alright, answer me this. Earlier, why did you let yourself get caught by security? You're clearly stronger than him." Exactly. It's the same deal with these cuffs. They're perfect for restraining mid-tiers, but for us, they serve more as a reminder. Don't cross the line. You may be strong, but the authorities will stop you. With superheroes, these high and elite tiers are crossing the line. They're doing things that the authorities don't approve of. They thought banning the book of Unordinary would be enough, but they had to go as far as to start axing off the superheroes. It's not a surprise that Ember, a group that kills people trying to protect others, a group that sells drugs and helps people take over towns, belong into chaotic evil. They're literally a criminal syndicate. My goal wasn't to persuade you that they belong here. It was more of a fun way to talk about a few ideas that I had with this group. So I hope you enjoyed this type of video. Even if it's not the type of video for this series. But like always, thank you for watching.